What a way to head into the weekend if you're a Celtic fan. Just when you think the club is settling in with its preseason rhythm and gearing up for a friendly against Newcastle at Celtic Park, boom, transfer drama hits again. And not just any rumor, we're talking about serious movement in the striker department. Rodgers said it himself this week. Celtic still need more firepower up top, even after signing YAMADA. And here we are just a day later talking about a rejected multi-million euro bid for a new forward. You couldn't make it up. The season hasn't even started properly, and already things are heating up at Parkhead. Now let's go back to Wednesday night, right after the match against Sporting Lisbon. Rodgers was asked about YAMADA, and his response was, well, a bit lukewarm to be honest. He said the Japanese striker would complete his medical over the next few days, and they'd have a proper look at him. Fair enough. But then came the bit that raised eyebrows. Rodgers openly admitted that the squad has lost a lot of goals, and they need players who can replace that. He wasn't exactly brimming with excitement over YAMADA. Sure, he said the players got intensity and work rate, things the scouts liked, but he quickly pivoted to something far more telling, a comment that pretty much confirmed this wasn't his guy. Rodgers spoke about the club's strategy of signing players, both for development and for immediate impact. He acknowledged that YAMADA might fit the latter, even though he's a bit older, but he also stressed the need to add more quality to the front line. And that's where it gets really interesting. Rodgers wants to assess YAMADA, sure, but he also made it clear that he's not stopping there. He's still on the hunt for a striker. He can trust someone who fits his system and brings what he's looking for: goals, energy, and a real presence up top. This is not about signing a big name, according to Rodgers. He said it himself, big names don't always give you what you need. What he wants is hunger, drive, and players who are ready to contribute now. The message Celtic striker search is very much alive. So let's talk about the man at the center of the latest rumor, Montanu, a Romanian forward who's been absolutely tearing it up at CFR Cluj. The guy's got 26 goals in 43 appearances since joining them last year, with a few assists sprinkled in. Not bad numbers at all. Reports from Romania say Celtic tabled a bid of around €8 million, roughly £6.5 million, and Cluj straight up rejected it. No negotiation, no counteroffer. Just a flat no. And here's the kicker: Cluj want €18 million. 18. That's not just above Celtic's bid. It's on another planet entirely. You might be thinking, are they mad? How do you reject $8 million from a club like Celtic? But here's the thing. Cluj aren't doing anything we haven't done ourselves. We've put £20-25 million price tags on our own players and expected clubs to pay up. Why wouldn't they do the same, especially for a player who's clearly their crown jewel? From their perspective, Montanu is the real deal. He's under contract for another 3 years. He's been consistent, and he's young. They know someone's going to come knocking eventually, and they're in no rush to sell. And just to hammer the point home, Cluj's owner Nella Varga came out publicly and said Montanu will only leave for €18 million. No discussions, no deals below that mark. That's his price, and he's sticking to it. That's a serious statement. You don't say something like that unless you're either extremely confident in the player's market value or you genuinely don't want to sell. Unless someone absolutely blows you away. Now will Celtic go back in with an improved offer that remains to be seen. But the gap between 8 and 18 million is massive. And let's be honest, Celtic are not a club that throws money around. We are careful, strategic. We spend when we see value. So unless Montanu pushes for the move or Cluj soften their stance, this might be one of those sagas that fades away as quickly as it appeared. But let's say Celtic are serious. Let's say Rodgers really believes Montanu is his guy. Is he worth pushing the boat out for? Looking at his stats, it's hard not to be intrigued. He's proven himself in Romania, has a good record with assists as well, and has been solid wherever he's gone, from youth level of Fiorentina to a decent spell of Viitorul. This past year at Cluj has been his breakout, and with 3 years left on his deal, Cluj have all the power. They're in control, and they know it. Unless Montanu makes noise and starts agitating for a move, there's no reason for them to lower their price. And here's where it gets even trickier. If Celtic are truly in a market for a striker, and they've already been knocked back with a significant bid, where do they go next? Do they up the offer, try for another target, or do they try to negotiate something like a structured deal? part up front, part of Dons, because if this is Rodgers' preferred option, they're going to need to work some magic to bring that fee down or at least make it more palatable over time. Meanwhile, it's not just about incomings. Outgoings are starting to take shape too, with Luis Palma reportedly set to leave on loan. The destination Polish side, Lech Poznan. Reports say it's a one-year loan with a hefty option to buy, around €4.5 million. That's more or less what Celtic paid, so financially, it could be a smart move if he performs well. But it's also another sign that the winger clearly didn't fit Rodgers' plans. The writing was on the wall, and now it seems all but confirmed. If he goes over there, performs, and they take up the option, Celtic could even make a small profit. But if it goes wrong, we might be right back in this same spot next summer. Rodgers himself has already confirmed that Palma is going out on loan. And let's be honest, it never looked like it was going to work here. From the beginning, there were question marks, and he never really settled. A move is probably best for everyone. Funny enough, just days ago, there were fans online clutching onto reports from Honduras, saying he was staying and losing their heads over it. But again, patience. Just be patient. Football changes quickly. 24 hours later, and boom, he's on his way. Beyond Palma, there could be more movement soon. Brendan Rodgers mentioned that players like Kwan and Young could also be heading out, which would suggest there's a bit of a clear-out happening behind the scenes. No surprise there. Rodgers wants his squad to be leaner, more competitive, and filled with players he trusts. And speaking of trust, there's been plenty of talk about which signings Rodgers really wanted versus which ones were club decisions. Take Hayato Almura, for example. There was a lot of noise when he signed. Some fans were angry, calling it a pointless signing. But you watch his first couple of games, and suddenly those same fans are asking for him to start. That's how fast opinions change in football. For Rodgers, it's a low-risk signing. If it works, great. If not, it doesn't hurt the club. Same goes for Callum Osimhen, brought in from Fulham's academy. He hasn't exactly set the world alight in friendlies so far, but again, young, raw with potential. Not someone to lean on heavily, but someone to nurture. The key concern, of course, is that Celtic don't fall into the trap of relying too much on these development signings. Players like Osimhen, who by the way has 0 senior minutes in his career, shouldn't be expected to come in and save the season. If they get minutes here, and they're great. But the core of the team has to be built around proven performers. That's what Rodgers is clearly pushing for, and that's why the striker pursuit is so important. Because as it stands, if Celtic go into a Champions League qualifier with a front line led by Osimhen and Amura at left-back, fans will not be pleased. Those games are crucial. They define seasons' reputations and future revenue. Celtic can't afford to gamble at that level. They need experience, quality, and players ready to make a difference now. And that brings us full circle. Rodgers doesn't care about signing big names for the sake of it. What he wants are big players. Men who rise in big moments, who play with intensity, who carry themselves like professionals from day one. That's what he had during his first spell at the club, and that's what he's trying to rebuild now. It's not just about flair or hype. It's about being reliable when it matters. That's why this Montanu story matters. Because whether it happens or not, it shows what Rodgers is pushing for. He's made his feelings known. He's sent the message to the board. Now it's a waiting game. Will Celtic return with a new bid? Will Cluj bend? Or will we be talking about a new name next week entirely with the Montanu deal hanging in the balance and the striker situation still far from resolved? Attention naturally turns to what Celtic have done so far in the market. And more importantly, what's still to come. Because let's face it, while there have been a few new faces and some returning favorites, it still doesn't quite feel like Rodgers has the squad he wants. The spine is incomplete. And even though some positions look well covered on paper, we've all seen how quickly that depth can vanish once injuries and fixture congestion kick in. There's still work to do. Now, one of the biggest talking points of the summer, without a doubt, has been the return of Kieran Tierney. Just seeing him walk back onto the pitch wearing the hoops again brought a lift to the whole support. It might not have felt like a bombshell because the move had been brewing since January, but once it was made official and he stepped onto the park against Australia, you could feel it, the emotional weight of it. It's not just a signing, it's a homecoming. He's one of our own, and no matter what anyone says, getting a player of that caliber back at Celtic Park is nothing short of remarkable. Think about it. This is a player who was on over 100 grand a week at Arsenal. A guy who's played Champions League, Premier League, international football at the highest level. If you remove the emotional factor and just look at it as a transfer, it's almost unbelievable that Celtic were even in the conversation. But someone at the club made the numbers work, and Tierney himself clearly wanted the move. That kind of emotional pull can't be bought, and when it aligns with the business side, you get something special. He might not have had a standout game against Sporting, but his fitness looks sharp, and he was flying up and down the flank against Australia. The connection with the squad already seems solid. That's a win for Rodgers and for the fans. But it's not just Tierney. The other signings have been a mixed bag so far. Benjamin the Gren looks solid. Nothing flashy, but reliable. Ross Doohan, brought in as a backup keeper, is unlikely to feature much, and that's fine. He's there to fill a gap, to meet squad requirements, and offer cover. That's smart, sensible business. You need players like that. Every squad needs depth, and not every signing has to be a game changer. However, the real intrigue lies in players like Hayato Amura and Kamo Osman, the ones that sparked debate among the support. When Amura first signed, there was a wave of negativity online. People saying it was another cheap punt, that the club was wasting time and money. But that noise died down pretty quickly after his first outing in a Celtic shirt. He looked composed, technically sound, and played with a bit of confidence. Suddenly, the same folk who were raging about his arrival were singing his praises. That's football for you. One performance can change everything. Amura might not play a huge role this season, but if he turns out to be a hidden gem, Rodgers will look like a genius. Osman, on the other hand, still feels like a mystery. Brought in from Fulham's academy, he's a player with potential, sure, but there's a big difference between potential and being ready for the Celtic first team. He's yet to play a senior minute anywhere, and that's a concern. Fulham fans seem genuinely disappointed to lose him, which is a good sign, but whether he gets a real shot or ends up going out on loan remains to be seen. You'd think bringing him in only to loan him out immediately would be odd, but stranger things have happened. Maybe Rodgers wants him close to the squad training at a high level, even if he doesn't feature in games straight away. That's how you build future contributors. Still, the broader issue remains. Are these players being signed as prospects, or are they expected to contribute right away? Because if Celtic are relying on Osman Amura, or even someone like YAMADA, to lead the line in crucial fixtures, then we've got a problem. That's not a knock on the players themselves. It's just the reality of the level Celtic play at. Champions League qualifiers are brutal. You need experienced leadership and players who have been in those pressure moments. That's why fans are desperate for Rodgers to get a striker, someone who can come in and make an immediate impact. And that's where the frustration lies. There's a feeling among parts of the support that the club's recruitment policy is still stuck in two minds, trying to blend short-term needs with long-term projects. That can work, sure, but only if you get the balance right. In Rodgers' first stint, he had a spine of players he trusted. He could build around them, bring in youth, and develop talent gradually. But right now, that spine isn't fully in place. Until it is, every transfer window will feel a bit incomplete. We've also got to address the patience or lack thereof within the support. Fans want answers, updates, new signings, and they want them now. Social media doesn't help. One minute you're reading a rumor from Honduras that Luis Palma is staying, the next minute he's on his way to Poland. That's the game now. Everything moves fast, and people react even faster. Rodgers told us this would be a busy summer, and he wasn't lying. But transfers take time. Deals fall through. Clubs hold out for more money. Players change their minds. The process is messy, and fans would do well to remember that. The Palma situation is a prime example. Once seen as a key part of the squad, it's become clear he just doesn't fit what Rodgers wants. Maybe it's the style, maybe it's attitude, maybe it's something we don't see behind the scenes. But if the deal with Lech Poznan goes through and includes that big buyout clause, it could end up being tidy business. Recoup the investment, maybe even turn a small profit. Everyone wins. But it's a risk. If he thrives in Poland and Celtic are left short on the wing, questions will be asked. That's the tightrope clubs walk every window. And what about the others possibly heading out? Kwon and Young have been mentioned, with Rodgers hinting that moves could be close. Again, nothing confirmed yet, but clearly the squad is being trimmed. Rodgers is trying to mold this team in his image, and that means making tough decisions. Not every signing from last year will survive. Some will be moved on either permanently or on loan to free up space and wages for players who better fit the system. It's not just about clearing space, though. It's about building a group of players who understand what's expected of them. Rodgers has spoken often about intensity, not just in matches, but in training and preparation, in everything. He wants a culture where players push each other, where complacency isn't tolerated. That's why he keeps repeating that phrase, hunger. It's not a buzzword. It's a non-negotiable. Whether you're a youngster, just in the door, or a seasoned pro like Tierney, you have to bring that every day. Now, looking ahead, the pressure only ramps up. The Champions League qualifiers are looming. First leg expected in early August, second leg a week later. The draw is right around the corner, and those games will set the tone for the season. That's the reality at a club like Celtic. You don't get time to ease in. You're judged from day one. That's why Rodgers is pushing so hard for reinforcements. He knows what's at stake. If Celtic go into those matches without a proven striker, without a fully settled defense, and with too many question marks in midfield, it could be costly. European nights are unforgiving. One slip, one bad result, and you're out. And then the noise starts. The pressure builds. That's why these next few weeks are so crucial. So far, the window has delivered a mix of excitement, uncertainty, and cautious optimism. The return of Tierney has lifted spirits. The youth signings show the club is thinking long-term. But the striker situation remains unresolved, and until that changes, there'll be a lingering sense of unease. Rodgers knows it. The board knows it. The fans definitely know it. And you can already see the narrative forming. If Celtic don't land a top striker and results start to suffer, people will look back at the rejected Montanu bid and wonder, what if we just paid a bit more? What if we'd gone after someone else earlier? That's how these things go. But the good news is there's still time. Not much, but enough to get something done. Whether it's Montanu, another target entirely, or a late surprise, Celtic must act decisively. Because the games are coming. The expectations are sky high. And Brendan Rodgers isn't here for a rebuild. He's here to win. And he'll need the right players to do it. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are growing louder around Paradise as the ink dries on the signing that's got the Green Brigade buzzing. YAMADA is officially a Celtic player. The Japanese talent has arrived in Glasgow amidst a swirl of anticipation and hope, with fans already dreaming of him becoming the next parquet icon. While the club has kept things tight-lipped about the fee and contract details, what's certain is the excitement that's rippling through the support. Word around the East End is that the coaching staff were impressed not just by Yamada's technical flair, but his relentless work ethic and eye for goal, traits that could see him quickly win over the Celtic faithful. Yamada joins a growing tradition of Japanese players finding a home in the hoops, following the footsteps of Kyogo Furuhashi, Ryo Hatate, and Daisen Maeda. The success of that trio underlined the strength of the J-League pipeline and helped forge a bond between the Celtic support and Japanese football, a bond Yamada will be keen to strengthen. There's talk from those in the know that Yamada's personality is as sharp as his play, humble, disciplined, and hungry. He's already said to have caught the eye in training with his slick movement and calmness on the ball. Some even suggest he could be the long-term answer to Celtic's creative midfield puzzle, though it's early doors yet. Could he be the next cult hero to echo through the terraces of Celtic Park? Some fans have already started songs, and there's chatter that a banner might be unveiled by the Green Brigade in the coming weeks. No small honor for a player yet to pull on the shirt in a competitive match. As always, time will tell. But if the early murmurs are anything to go by, Yamada might not just be another signing. He could be the spark that lights up a new era at Parkhead. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.